and he's going to house it.
It's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another Angle of Pursuit podcast, your NASCAR, DFS, and sports betting home. That is Brian Twining. I am Kyle Robert. We are here to talk Geico 500. Qualifying is in the books. Odds are pretty much reshuffled. Obviously, Brian and I were chatting a little bit, but the sports books know that qualifying, while it's like you want to see guys drive well, at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. You could start 30th, you could start first. You still have a chance to win the race. So much carnage, so much mayhem, so much ability to move through the field. So, but we did want to wait till that was in the books before we jumped in. So before we do that, Brian, how the hell are you?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. I was excited to watch qualifying this morning. There was a few little interesting tidbits I took away from it. I mean, you can't take too much away from single lap speed with nobody else on the track for a super speedway, especially Talladega. Yeah. But I think the manufacturers had clear differences in how they wanted to go about this qualifying session.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good call. I do wonder though, like, while you have to have the long run speed and you have to be able to hang around and avoid getting caught up in the mayhem, you do also need to have that fast lap speed, because there is going to be probably a couple restarts towards the end, and you need to be able to get out and go if you're going to be in the front. So, I did like to see some of the guys who could get going really well, and what that may mean for, potential overtime or late stage race. Like, as long as you put yourself in position, you'll have a chance to win.
Yeah, I think it's also interesting to note too, like, some guys like their car to handle a little bit differently. And some guys were even talking about how they actually had Todd Gilliland in the booth as they were watching the end of qualifying.
And BJ McLeod, your guy.
Oh, yeah. And BJ McLeod was up there, and they were talking about how their car was bouncing a ton. So clearly their steering wheel was probably all over the place while they were watching Joey Logano and Ryan Blaney in particular. And they looked like they were driving on like freshly paved parking lot type stuff. So I think that's what makes these tracks even more intriguing for me as somebody who's, just over the last couple of years really liked the sport, is just seeing the different setups and how different guys like their cars to handle. And then come race day, taking qualifying and throwing all of that in the garbage because you really have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah, I'd like to see them do that more, have the actual drivers up in the booth, just give, especially like for practice and for qualifying, just give us some tidbits and some information, especially as we're trying to figure out what to do with these guys each and every week. It would be really, really nice. But as we do every week, we are here to build some DraftKings lineups, go through some of the pricing, and then talk about kind of what we want to do in terms of updating our betting card. I'm trying to adjust this a little bit. How's that? Looks good right there.
Beautiful.
Okay, so let's talk some DraftKings and then we'll figure it out. So Super Speedway, we will probably build a couple lineups just because they're more fun to build. I'm not starting near the front with pretty much anybody. I'm gonna grab the guys that are starting farther back. I'm gonna try and piece it all together. So Logano starting 8th at 10.4, Blaney starting 5th, 10.3, Chase Elliott starting 29th, I think is going to be one of the popular picks from the 10K region. I'm going to include the 9K guys just because there's not really, 3 drivers. So Hamlin got the pole, obviously looked really fast. Toyotas in general, Denny's starting 1st, Gibbs starting 3rd, Christopher Bell 6th, Truex 7th, and Bubba starting in the top 12. So that's interesting to see. So we have Hamlin, we have Byron, we have Larson starting in the top 10, even though he said he's not really a fan of this track, and he's one of the guys that always gets caught up in the carnage. So it'll be interesting to see. I think if there is a week where he gets through, he'll have a really good chance to win, but might be a good guy to fade. Chastain starting 23rd, Keselowski starting 20th. We talked about our love for the RFK, and then Tyler Reddick rounds out the 9K region. So I guess of this range, obviously there's like 10, 12 drivers. Who's jumping out in terms of price, where they're starting, and your expectations for the race?
Well, I think it's important to note that of starting position winners, like 7, I tweeted this out earlier this morning. 7 of the last 8 victors here at Talladega all started 9th or worst. And of course, the one outlier just happens to be Denny Hamlin, who won the race by starting on pole back in 2020. So I mean, you take that for how you want, but it's also something to keep in mind. Like Denny Hamlin, we've seen it in the past. He seems to be a guy who likes to drop to the rear fairly early in the race just to kind of, save tires so that way he can go a little bit longer on those tires and maneuver his way through the field by drafting and all this kind of stuff, get a better handle for his car of how it's going to work in the pack early. So that way he knows what he's got to change throughout the race. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I really don't think he's a guy you're going to want to put in there and expect a ton of laps led. And especially considering I think there's been like 17 different people to lead a lap over the 2 races last year. So for me, I'm going all the way down. I'm going to add Chastain. I think him starting 23rd, 9,400. I mean, he finished top 5 both these races last year. He's probably the guy who has really excelled at the super speedways in the last couple of years since he's been with Trackhouse. That is piquing my interest the most off of a starting position factor.
Yeah. Starting in the 20s, obviously has a chance to win the race, can move forward easily. So what you're saying about Denny though is he should probably just change his engine so he has to start in the back and.
I honestly, I would not doubt that would be something they did. I'm pretty sure we've seen this before with him. Like he just likes to go to the rear.
Yeah, no, but I think your point is good. Like these guys, like they don't want to get caught up in the madness, but they also want to figure some stuff out in stage 1 and stage 2, so that way when stage 3 is there, they know what to expect. They know what tweaks they have to make. Obviously, the long run
exactly.
speed.
Like if you lead the entire race and then say you get a late restart because of a caution, you don't know how your car is going to react in the draft. If you've just led the entire day, so that's why guys like Denny, Blaney. I mean, you see it with Bubba Wallace, Keselowski, all really good super speedway drivers. You'll see them periodically throughout the day drop back a little bit and then see how their car is feeling. So that way they can set it up for the later runs.
Yeah. No, I think those are all good points. I think Chase is obviously compelling, starting 29th. You never twist my arm to not take Byron, who's starting the top 20. Like I said, I'm probably not really into Kyle Larson just because of track record and it's just not a place where he traditionally does very well. And then we like the RFK guys, so Keselowski starting 20th is also really, really compelling. Let's dive into the 8K range, where we have a handful of names. Obviously, Kyle Busch starting 17th. The aforementioned Bubba Wallace starting 12th. Fine going to him. Obviously, a ton of track record going here. The Toyotas were fast, starting far enough back where he makes sense.
Yeah.
The more Toyotas, Christopher Bell, Martin Truex. I mean, it's going to be hard to get to some of these guys, even as compelling as they are, just because of where they're starting. Let's talk about Alex Bowman, and then obviously Ricky Spinouts. But Bowman did not look good in qualifying. Obviously, is a guy that we think can do pretty well here. Starting 27th, is he somebody at 8,200 that you're willing to get to, or do you have too many questions based upon what we saw today?
Well, again, like we let off of the show, and then I was talking about a little bit before recording. Certain teams, certain cars, and in particular Chevrolet, in my opinion, they must have had a different strategy coming into this qualifying session and wanting to set up their cars for the draft more so than single lap speed to try to qualify well. Because something I noticed out of these Chevys is coming out of turn 2, compared to the Fords and the Toyotas, they lost a lot of time on that back straightaway. So, I'm not taking too much out of that. And it's interesting to note, Alex Bowman has been the pole sitter at Daytona numerous times and not wound up winning the race. And I'd mentioned it when talking about Denny Hamlin. The pole sitter or starting up front hasn't been indicative of the race winner here. So, I mean, maybe they're just trying a different strategy. I would preferably, for me, I would avoid Chase Elliott starting in the 29th position, knowing he's probably going to be rostered a ton, and to go all the way down to Bowman if I do want to get exposure to HMS. starting near the rear of the field.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good call. Bowman didn't race in the fall race, but did race in the spring race. Started 27th, was in the top 10 by the end of stage 1, was 5th by stage 2, and then ended up finishing 9th. So I think he is somebody that could make some sense. And as you mentioned, if you are looking to get some Hendrick exposure, don't really love Kyle Larson, you want to fade Chase Elliott, I think Bowman makes sense starting 27th. He could easily have a top 10 day and potentially higher.
Yeah, and you're saving like $1,500 from him to the next Hendrick guy of Larson at 96 and Byron at 97. I don't understand why you would go to those guys when you could get Bowman starting just as far back, and he has just as good a chance as them to move to the front of the field.
Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't blame anybody who stacks them up either, because we've seen Hendrick just be dominant and put a bunch of their cars near the front. Stenhouse starting 33rd, 8,100. Obviously, one Daytona. Obviously, a super speedway maven. He's going to be insanely popular. So, adjust your exposures accordingly. He's definitely somebody that, like, I don't mind like betting on an outright card, but I would be worried about using in DraftKings. Like, obviously his ceiling is winning the race,
Yep.
but his floor is crashing on lap 2 and being in the garage all day. So, don't go. I wouldn't go overweight on him if you're going to play him, but
yeah,
there's definitely a lot of risk, even with the potential reward.
Yeah, Ricky Stenhouse to me represents every rookie driver in iRacing the first time on an oval, like, who doesn't understand that you need to be patient in the draft, and they're just constantly trying to make moves throughout the race and hooking people on lap 3. And yeah, for me, like I said, leading up to this week, he cashed in his lottery ticket at the 500. I really don't see him, competing for the win here. And like I said, if I could place the bet, I would bet yes that he does not finish the race.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like Stenhouse and then Chase Elliott are the two drivers that'll probably get the most ownership, and then, easy to kind of fade off of them. And, if you're doing cash, obviously you can be a little more predictable. But I think if you're in any sort of GPP, you want to adventure away from those two guys. The 7K range is interesting. A lot of names. Chase Briscoe starting 4th. He looked really good. Kind of high expectations for him this weekend. Starting 4th, don't know that I love it on DraftKings. Harvick starting 11th. Buescher starting 10th. We talked about the RFK guys. We're excited about both of them. Is Buescher starting 10th close enough for you to consider him, even though, like, obviously we like the RFK guys. We think Brad K makes a lot of sense, but, at 7,700 starting 10th, is that far enough back for you to be like, yeah, he could find a home in some of my lineups?
Honestly, like, if you ask me, I could only have one between Buescher and Bubba, who is starting 12th, both really good super speedway drivers, I would save the salary and go with Buescher, just because he's probably going to be less owned. He's been just as good as Bubba. The peripherals, when you take away finishing results, Buescher with Keselowski, like we talked about, they were probably the strongest two cars at the Daytona 500. And, if it wasn't for a mistake by them of creating too much separation between the pack of Chevys, letting them get a huge run, they could have just, monopolized the field for the rest of the day and took home the win, one of those two guys. So, like I said, if I had to pick one of the two, I would probably go Buescher just because he's far cheaper.
Yeah, and I think Buescher has the same ceiling. Like, he could win the race, but I also think he has a higher floor. Like, Bubba gets a little rattled sometimes and does things that he knows he shouldn't do, but he does because he gets caught up in the moment and stuff happens. So I like that call. Save money, starting relatively similar spots, and lot less exposure. Daniel Suarez starting 22nd. Almirola, love him for betting, not touching him, starting 2nd.
No.
Ryan Preece starting 16th. Austin Dillon starting 14th. And Austin Cindric starting 15th. I guess of the other names starting in the 7K range, where is your Where's your interest going?
It's easily Priest and Dillon. I like both of those guys coming in this week. I like Priest a little bit more. I think people forget, like, he looked fantastic last week at Martinsville until pit road speeding penalty.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, that doesn't translate to super speedway racing, but Priest was a guy when he was in the Cup Series full time. He was very competitive at these high speed tracks. So I think Priest is somebody that piques my interest. And then Dillon, like we talked about, the 500. Him and Kyle Busch were probably the second best tandem that day. So I don't see a reason why you shouldn't be high on him coming into this week. And as far as Chevys go, he was one of the fastest qualifying Chevys today. So clearly the car has got a good engine in it. RCR has always been pretty good at these super speedways. So Dillon is somebody 7,200 and Priest is 7,300. I would not mind just kind of building a lineup surrounding those guys and maybe even people cheaper, right?
Yeah, no, I think that range is compelling. Cindric's even interesting a little bit. But yeah, the price to potential ratio right there for sure. Dillon would be my favorite, and then probably Buscher would be my top two from this range. Let's dive into the rest of the 6K range because I think there's incredible value here. Michael McDowell starting 21st, 6,800. Eric Jones starting 24th. Love Eric Jones this week, 6,700. Will be an easy click for me, probably easy click for lots of people. So
Yeah.
I would avoid a like Elliott and Bubba and Eric Jones but definitely can find a home for him. Gibbs was really fast, looked really good. Obviously, in Toyota is hard to get to, starting third. Justin Haley starting 26th at 6,400 is really interesting. The Dinger, I actually kind of like the Dinger starting just almost the 20th. 6,200, I think he makes some sense. And then Corey LaJoy, we talked a little bit about in the betting preview, but a guy that can drive well in super speedways, starting 34th, 6,100, maybe gets you top 20, maybe flirts with top 15, and you're going to love having him in your lineup. So I think he makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and on the Corey LaJoy note too, he's somebody who seems to run his own race. Like because he's in a car where they need to just gain points and all that kind of stuff. Early on, he'll probably take a little bit of a different pitch strategy, possibly lead a lap or two. It'll put him back towards the back of the field again, after the end of the stage or something like that. But he's a guy who could sneak a couple of laps led, potentially finish in the top 15, like you said, or even a top 10, like we've seen him before. But the guy in that group that I'm all over, Michael McDowell, starting 21st, 6,800. This guy has 3 top 10s in the last 4 trips here to Talladega. He won the Daytona 500 just a couple of years ago. He is kind of like Bubba Wallace in that mold of they just seem to find their way there towards the end of the race. I mean, he was running inside the top 10 or near the top 10 at the Daytona 500 with like 30 laps to go this year before getting caught up in a wreck. Like, he's just so good at maneuvering the field at these super speedways. I think a top 10 is definitely in his cards this week. 6,800, starting 21st. McDowell is one of my favorite guys for price to value range.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of potential here. Also, don't be afraid to leave a ton of money on the table. Like,
yes,
you could easily start a lineup with McDowell and Jones and Dinger or
LaJoy.
LaJoy. Like you could get 3 or 4 of these guys in your lineup and build a really, really strong lineup. Speaking of values, like below 6K, there is some guys that I'm willing to go to. Austin Hill starting at 31st. I know he's not a typical cup car guy, but I think he is a very good super speedway racer. I think he'll have a really strong potential performance.
The dude is plus 250 to win the Xfinity race today. Like, that just shows you how good he is at super speedway.
So flirt with the top 15, top 10, and have an amazing day. Similar for Zane Smith, I'm fine with him. Obviously, him and Gilliland and that kind of rotation of cars is a little frustrating, but I think
is funky.
He is somebody that's worthwhile. Harrison Burton, fine at 5,500. Noah Gragson starting 30th, 5,300. Like the aforementioned Gilliland. I'm probably out on BJ McLeod, even at 4,500. Yeah, and maybe Ty Dillon. Like
I can't. So I just can't get to Ty Dillon just based
Yeah.
off of like how bad he looked at the 500. Like
Yeah, that's fair.
he was extremely slow. I don't know if he can stay in the pack. I have an eerily bad feeling that we're going to see Dillon, Yaley, and BJ McLeod running their 3-pack own race fairly quickly here. So I don't know. I can't get to them anymore.
Yeah, the one thing I will say is McLeod started 37th, finished 26th, Yaley 38, 25. They're comfortable being in the back and just kind of doing their own thing and not.
The thing is they are literally a coin flip away from like getting caught up in the big one because of where they are in the field.
Yeah, no, that's probably fair. I don't know. I just feel like they'll be in the back. The race will happen. They'll just kind of turtle their way through the field and end up 10 spots in because they didn't end up in a crash.
Yeah.
All right, Brian. Let's build 2 lineups. I think maybe 3
right.
if we really get feisty. What is the first name that you want to put into the lineup?
Michael McDowell. He's the first guy I'm going
Easy.
to here.
Easy game. Let's see, right there, 68. Eric Jones, 67.
All right, we're gonna stay down here. We got to go our guy Corey LaJoy.
Okay, 6,100. Happy with that. So we still have a ton of cash, but we don't necessarily have to spend it all. Let's see here.
I almost feel like we need a legit somebody with decent odds to win the race because all 3 of these guys can clearly work their way up into the top 10, potentially win the race, but they're like 40 to 60 to 1 to win.
Why don't we do this and then this?
All right. I don't hate that. Personally, I'm not in on Elliott myself, but
yeah,
he's too good to. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
And he had his race last week, so he's back into his rhythms. This is a full race week.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a little bit better for him. So we can do whatever we want. Like we could go all the way to the top, obviously. We can go all the way to the bottom. Let's work through some names that make sense and see if we can narrow down. So I think Byron obviously makes sense. Starting 18th. Obviously we both love Ross Chastain. Starting 23rd. Okay.
Adam, simple.
Easy game.
Look at 3. Just to point out, not a single one of these guys is starting in the top 20.
Nope. But if you look at the odds, Chastain is up there. Bowman's probably not as high, but he's definitely up there. Elliott's obviously up there. And even Eric Jones is like what?
Yeah, he's probably like 20 to 1 right now or 25.
Yeah, so let's save that lineup. Let's create another one. All right, easy game. So my question to you is: do we do the double RFK, or do you want to look at Bubba starting 12th?
I mean, it's definitely going to be pivoting away from anything else other people are going to do because I highly doubt people are going to go Buescher and Bubba in the lineup.
Yeah, well, especially the way we were looking at the Toyotas too. Like they are going to be, I think, really popular.
Yeah.
So let's do this. And Mr. Keselowski. All right, we'll double RFK it up. I know it's really dangerous to go with Brad K at a place where accidents happen more than just normal, but I think he makes a lot of sense. Beyond those 2, what's the next driver that you really want to make sure we get some exposure to? I mean, Priest, Dillon are both make sense. Obviously, we still, we can go back to McDowell. I'm fine with that.
No, I wanna pivot off of him a little bit.
Any
I do
of these
think
guys?
that, yeah, I like Zane Smith this week. I think taking on that 38 car, I think he's going to do pretty well. And starting 35th, whatever. All we need him to do is hopefully get inside the top 25.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. Justin Haley is going in the lineup. I like him quite a bit. I think he has top 10 potential. So I think he makes a lot of sense. So we have 10K. We can go. Who's up here? I mean, Chase Elliott makes sense.
You know what?
Make.
We're gonna do it. I'm gonna put the ultimate jinx on him, but let's add Ryan Blaney to this group.
He's the guy that if you're going to the top, I'm not opposed to. And I know that sounds stupid because
he's
literally every week
fantastic
this guy, even when he is the favorite, has something that goes wrong. But this is the week where he should figure stuff out. He hasn't won in like 50 straight races or something crazy.
Yeah, it's something ridiculous. And also, too,
and at some point, Ryan, sorry to break it to you, but it's not you or it's not us. It's you. Like it's just not bad. Like you can't run into bad luck every single
exactly.
week.
Like he's basically making his own bad luck, kind of. And the one thing about Talladega is the track is so large. You could probably sustain a few errors early in the day and be able to maneuver your way back up the field, especially with the 2 stage breaks.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not having that occur at the wrong time.
Okay, so the question is, who gets the last spot? I'm trying to figure out, like, I know we don't love it, but Joey Logano starting 8th, 10-4. He could dominate this race. You put him with Blaney, the 2 Fords get to the front, the Penske guys. I don't know. That's the name that jumps out to me. Obviously, I love Chastain, love Bubba, love Bowman.
We got to add Bubba. Think about it. Bubba and Blaney are like best friends.
True.
They got to be in the lineup together. Maybe they help each other out.
And we get some Toyota exposure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we got 3 guys starting in the top 12. I don't know that I love, I might pivot off these guys, but
yeah, but honestly, I think all 3 of those guys can maintain that, come crossing the finish line. Yeah, and all 3 of those guys have a legit shot to top 5.
And we have 4 guys who could legitimately win. So, all right, let's build one more. I'm gonna. There's a 3 max contest that I enter every single week. Let's build a 3rd lineup, and then we'll go on to the betting. All right.
All right. How gross are we getting with this one?
You want to get gross? Let's get gross.
All right. Let's go with Noah Gragson.
Okay. And we'll go Todd Gilliland.
Oh, love it.
I do like Eric Jones.
All right, let's add Ryan Preece to this one.
Okay, I'm good with that. All
right, let's get really gross here and do something that we almost never do. Let's put Denny Hamlin in this lineup.
Sorry, I just threw up a little bit.
Think about it. I'm really curious to see how many people actually roster the pole sitter, knowing the lack of success of that starting position.
So I think there is a potential that Denny just jumps out to the front and just runs front laps all day, and then maybe he doesn't win, but he gets you so many laps led, even if there's some times where he has to filter through, and pit changes and stuff, and then get back into the front, but he's just constantly running there, and he's just the best guy all day.
Well, and I also think, too, showing that speed he did during qualifying opens up the possibility of a lot of fastest laps during the race, too, especially when he's making his way through the field.
So my question to you is, do we double Toyota, like Christopher Bell or Bubba, or I don't really love Gibbs. Tyler Reddick's
definitely
fine.
not starting
I'm fine
third.
with that. Or do we? Or do we?
I mean, you talked about it with Austin Dillon. He's a guy who's done really well at these tracks, and 500 again. We were mentioning it. He and Kyle Busch were doing great.
Yeah. Dillon and Preece and Hamlin. Eric Jones.
I mean, you want to leave a lot of salary on the table.
I mean, we're leaving salary on the table for sure. God, that's gross, but I love it. All right. Let's review the bets. Let's give the people our updated thoughts. Obviously, the nice thing about super speedways is the lines don't move a ton, but there is some potential value. So I have two outrights: Eric Jones 35 and Ross Chastain 18. I have Eric Jones over Ryan Preece as my best bet. Eric Jones to top 5, the Gilliland of top 10, Bubba to top 5, Justin Haley over Austin Hill, and Gilliland over Harrison Burton. Brian is also with me on Chastain. He's got Chris Buescher, Corey LaJoy, Ryan Preece, Zane Smith, and Bubba, all for tiny units, but spray the board on the outright market. Hopefully find a winner, and don't spend $1 million doing it, and you'll have some fun at the super speedways. And then in terms of other bets, he says McDowell the top 10, and Bubba over Stenhouse as his best bet. Let's go take a look at the odds. Let me figure this out. All right. How's that look? Perfect. So Caesars and DraftKings and Bet365 are all up to date.
FanDuel just dropped theirs, by the way.
Okay, let me refresh this and see if they have it set up for us. No, but we can head over to FanDuel.
And we could just talk about it, and I'll just shout them out.
Yeah, anytime the number, like if there's a better number there, let's grab it.
Yeah.
All right. So Blaney and Logano are still your favorites, along with who else? There's somebody down here that jumped to 10. Maybe it readjusted. I don't know. So Blaney, Logano, Hamlin, and probably Chase Elliott are kind of your big four. It's hard to bet any of these guys. Like I said, I think if I was forced to bet, like Logano obviously has a ton of track record and has been really good at super speedways of late.
I'm not betting him.
Plus, Brian and I aren't betting him, so he's probably going to win. But I think he and then obviously Ryan Blaney. Like if Ryan Blaney can put 3 stages together, he can win this race. It's just that's not something he does. Brian talked about with Hamlin, the guy who qualifies on the pole usually doesn't win. The only guy to do it in the last 8 years is Denny Hamlin, or yes, 8 trips. We like Chase Elliott, obviously his second full race back. Good to see. The next range I think is interesting. Byron 12, 14, 15. Keselowski obviously down to 10 to 1. Or no, that's points bet's off, right? So it's probably like 14, 12. Chastain, you can still get a decent number. Didn't qualify super well, but yeah, I mean 15 to 1 I'm very happy with. Probably not betting Larson. If I'm betting him outright. I'm not betting him to like top 5. Like I think he's either winning or crashing and getting out of the way. The fact that you can still get Bubba at 20 is pretty wild to me.
And that's interesting. I wanted to mention this real fast. So DK right now, they actually have only like half the field listed on their website with live odds.
Okay.
So take what's posted there with that. Maybe that's like the estimated odds that they're going to be dropped at, but some of the guys actually don't have odds out. But Bubba is 20 to 1 at DK, and I think that's a fantastic number, especially when you look at Caesars 14 to 1.
No. Yeah, Bubba could easily win this race, and we talked a little bit about it.
17 at FanDuel.
Yeah, grabbing a few guys in this range could make a lot of sense. Christopher Bell's another guy I think could absolutely win the race. I'm not betting Stenhouse at 2022. That's just feels too aggressive for me. He should be in the 35 to range. I know how good he can be at this track style, but I'd much rather bet Chris Buescher, Tyler Reddick, Alex Bowman, even Almirola at 28. Like, give me all those guys.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, again, as wide as the range of outcomes are at Talladega, especially, there are a handful of guys who are legit really good at super speedway races. Yeah. Almirola being one, Dylan. These are guys that just have a knack for this type of racing. So I'd much rather go to them.
All right, rank these. Pick 3 guys and rank them for me from the Stenhouse. Anybody starting with a 2, all the way down. Like you can get Almirola, Jones, Briscoe, all the way down to Cindric, and then we'll cut it off at Suarez because there is a
Okay.
Yeah, we'll cut it off at Cindric. So you pick 3 guys from this 20-1 to 30-1 range, and then give me your top like 3. Give me the order that you would bet them in.
Well, it would probably be Busher, Jones, Dillon, and I would probably go, in my opinion, for what I'm expecting, Busher, Dillon, Jones in that order.
Okay, I don't hate that at all. Jones would be one for sure. Dillon, yeah, Austin Dillon's really tempting. Chase Briscoe, I'm weirdly turning myself into this week, and that's not
I
something
would
I
be more
do.
than happy to see him win, considering I was so high on him preseason. But
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to make of him because, like, when I'm out on him, he's good. When I'm in on him, he's terrible. He's one of the guys that are hard for me to pick. Tyler Reddick is really compelling, 25-1. I know he's not traditionally a super speedway like maven, but I think he's if we ranked NASCAR drivers for like a season long thing, he's just in a tier above all of these names. He's much closer to the Bell, Kyle Busch, Ross Chastain group than he is to kind of Busher and
yeah, I guess. But I mean, super speedway racing kind of levels the playing field.
oh,
out.
for sure. And that's why he's priced down here.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Don't mind Kyle. He's just clicking
I'm
buttons.
just struggling on the 1s and 2s over here. Don't mind me. All right, we're back to where we. Yeah, Austin Hill. Look at that. I mean, 30.
Well, look at the Priest number. I got
Yeah.
it at 60.
Yeah.
I don't
Michael
mind McDowell. If you could get him at 50, I mean, this is a guy who won the 500 a couple years ago, top 10s in 3 of the last 4 Degas. Like, clearly, he's putting himself in position.
Yeah. Yep. All right, let's go to matchups and see what we can find. Matchups are fun, but like it really feels like some of these books are really pricing out the juice, and that's not fun. Chase at plus 110. I know Denny looked amazing. Harvick at plus 105 over Bell. These are all kind of gross, aren't they?
Yeah, matchups are really hard for the super speedways because anybody can beat anybody, basically.
Yeah, and they're pricing them like that. There's not even like good value. Busher over Bowman, I think, is fine, even if you're laying a minus 120.
I mean, I'll say over at DK, Bubba is now minus 115 to finish ahead of Ricky Stenhouse Jr., and that's even after a pretty substantially better qualifying run than Stenhouse, and that just goes to show you how little qualifying affects these kind of numbers.
No, I think that's a good call. Let me pull up over here. All right.
Ooh.
Schedule? Yeah.
There's some fun numbers over, at Caesars.
Eric Jones over Ryan Preece. You can still get minus 110. I like that.
Oh,
Elliott over Logano.
So further down the board, Austin Dillon is plus 100 over Chase Briscoe.
Gillen is minus 105 against Harrison Burton. What did I get? Oh, I got minus 105. Okay. Yeah, a lot of these didn't really move.
Well, again, it's because they know, like, there's.
Yeah. Haley at plus 110 against Gibbs. That feels a little. But like you said, qualifying doesn't really ultimately matter that much. So,
Yeah.
um,
I mean, you could still get Gibbs at plus 200 to top 10.
that's really nice.
But even that, I don't know if I could go that high with him. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like it's his first Dega race in the Cup Series.
Yeah, no, that's fair. There is some boost. So Eric Almirola to be top Ford, 14-1. Kyle Busch top 3 at 550. Stenhouse, Chase Elliott, or Denny Hamlin win at plus 450. I don't know that I love that. Briscoe, Blaney, each top 10 plus 240. Don't love that.
No.
They're really giving us some gross numbers, aren't they?
Yeah, I just went back and looked real quick at the Daytona 500, and like Ryan Preece, he was 2-1 to top 10. McDowell plus 210 to top 10. I think LaJoy was like 4-1. He's 2-1 now at Talladega. I mean, the
Yeah,
numbers
they're
are.
minus 120 to top 10 in a race that there's going to be all kinds of accidents.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
not
hard to
betting any
bet
of this
any of
crap.
those.
Like, if you have really strong feelings, like, go for it, I guess. But, like, as much as I love Michael McDowell, plus 140, Austin Hill, plus 140, like,
Well,
they're
that's
just,
why I bet the McDowell top 10 earlier in the week, because I just
yeah,
expected him to qualify good enough to where the books will be like, oh, shit, we effed that number up. He should be more along the lines of like everybody else.
yeah.
Because he was one of only 7 or 8 guys, I believe, that had a top 10 number of 2-1 or longer.
Yeah. Just crazy for a super speedway.
Yeah.
This is the week they should be giving us all kinds of long numbers, but they just don't want to.
Well, it's because they know, like, again, literally anybody has a shot to top 10 at this race.
Yeah. What about McDowell 6-1 to top 5?
What is he on? Yeah, he's 5-1 at DK.
Or Ryan Preece 6-1? I feel like those two stand out as like the top 5 range.
Yeah, I don't hate that.
I mean, you can get BJ McLeod at 60-1 to top 5.
No thanks. I would take 1-1 for him to not finish on the lead lap.
To finish outside the top 30.
Yeah, like
Austin Dillon plus 320 to top 5. It's kind of
it's plus
nice.
350 at DK, by the way. So if you like that number,
Yeah, I'm adding that.
what's Busher to top 5 here?
have
3-1.
I have Bubba and I have Eric Jones, so like it feels kind of gross, but you know, if I hit one of them, I'm making my money back. If I hit 2 of them, then I'm crushing it. So I don't know.
You know, I'm gonna bet that Busher top 5 over at DK plus 350.
I think that's a good number.
I don't know how much more exposure I'm gonna get on this race, but
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I'm trying to find a best bet like today, and I'm really not.
there's not much.
There's not much.
Yeah.
Chastain at 6-1 to be top Chevy. I like.
Oh yeah, I forgot about those ones. I do think there's some interesting numbers that could be had with
Like
these.
Austin Dillon, I actually, you know what? I'm not betting. I'm gonna bet Austin Dillon as top Chevy at 12-1 instead of the top 5.
Oh, that's way better.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Ooh, Ooh. Oh man, that's so hard. So I like the Busher number plus 850 to top Ford.
Bubba plus 350 to top Toyota is kind of interesting.
I was just gonna say, but I think because I'm already pretty exposed to Busher, I'm gonna go with the Bubba top Toyota.
Yeah, I think that's a good number.
Especially knowing that there's only six of those cars on the track. Like that's all he's got to beat is 5 other guys.
Plus 340 to be top Ford for Joey Logano is really interesting.
Gross.
I know, but I know you don't like him, but I still think it's a good bet. These group bets any interesting? Like they're really squeezing in extra guys. Usually it's like 4 drivers. They have 6 this week.
Well, so they do like a bunch of 6, and I think they have 2 that are 4. Yeah, it's always like Group E or Group C or some crap.
See, this is interesting. Bubba plus 275 to beat Stenhouse, Bowman, Reddick, Almirola, and Cindric. Busher at plus 185 to beat Truex, Briscoe, and Suarez.
Up. Over at DK, I found one I'm going with.
All right.
It's a group of Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., and Bubba Wallace. Bubba Wallace is plus 285.
That's nice. Austin Hill plus 100 against Justin Haley over here. Bowman over Reddick at plus 100 is kind of nice. So here's the groups. Blaney, Hamlin, Logano, Elliott, Chase, Chastain, Keselowski, Byron Busch. I kind of like Chastain here.
That is pretty good. Even the bottom one, like Busher over Reddick, Bowman, and Cindric, I think is really intriguing. Except for I would prefer him to be the dog there.
Yeah. It's really interesting to see how they price some of these people this week. Yeah, why is like these guys just don't have prices? What's going on?
They're probably just waiting. Who knows? Or they forgot. I mean, that's definitely in the cards as well.
I think
right?
their code is probably broken because this stuff's all
True. All right. I don't think I'm adding anymore, so
yeah, I'm really trying to scrape something together for the people, but my God, this is gross.
yeah.
We don't want to force something that's not a good bet, especially when we're trying to find our favorite bets. The good thing is a lot of the numbers are similar, so we could just run back some of our initial thoughts. Let's see here. Let's go top 5 market. Let me see. Actually, you know what? Let's do this. Let's go over to here.
Oh, now you're getting crazy.
Now I'm getting crazy. Let's see if we can get. I like Ross Chastain this week, so I am going to get the best number I can. See if we can find an actual number. Plus 450 at Caesars. Is that still?
Yeah. Theirs are all loaded in there.
Okay, that's what I'm going to go with.
Woo!
So let's do that. So only 2 outrights. I feel pretty good about doing that. Eric Jones 35, Ross Chastain 18. Ross Chastain top 3 at plus 450 at Caesars, right?
Yep.
All right, so I will take that. I'm just going to put a unit on it. It's a top 3 bet. It's plus 450. I'm not going to go crazy. Eric Jones over Ryan Preece is still really like that. Eric Jones top 5, Gillen top 10, Bubba top 5, Haley over Hill, Gilliland over Burton, and Austin Dillon as top Chevy. I really like that too. Don't go crazy with it, but I think it's worth a little bit of a nibble. As I remind myself each and every race, don't get crazy this week. Geico 500. Don't get crazy this week. What did I not do? I did not get crazy. Brian, on the other hand, got a little crazy, but is also not super exposed. So if you're going to get crazy, you're going to spray the board. Do it with smaller units and just try and cobble something together. So Brian, break down your card, give your people your favorite bet for the race tomorrow, and let's get out of here.
Yeah, so unlike Kyle, I peppered the board with very small unit plays on outrights here. I actually have 7 in total now. Chastain, Buescher, LaJoie, Preece, and Zane Smith, with the last 3 being more so for fun. And then I had to add my guy Bubba, who I think has a legit shot. He's still 20-1 at DK, so go hammer that if you can still get that. And then the one addition I did make was Ryan Blaney at 11-1. I hope I didn't put the ultimate hex on him there, but
oh god, I was just gonna say betting Bubba and Blaney.
Yeah, exactly. It's not going to turn out well. And then the other additions I made for today, Austin Dillon over Chase Briscoe. I think the proof is in the pudding there. Dillon is really good at super speedways. Chris Buescher top 5. I'm extremely high on Buescher this week. I think as long as he keeps his car clean, he's got a legit shot to win here. Then Bubba top Toyota, I think, is probably one of my favorite bets this week. And then I added one group bet, and that's going to be Bubba over Kyle Larson, Chris Bell, and Ricky Stenhouse Jr., which is actually going to be my best bet as we sit here on Saturday before the race on Sunday. I think Bubba among those guys is clearly the better of the group and somebody who finds his way near the front at the end almost every single time. I mean, the dude has finished 1 or 2 laps down or on the lead lap in each of the last, whatever infinite super speedway races. He's always there. He keeps his car clean early to make that push at the end. So Bubba over that group is probably my favorite play going into Sunday.
I like that a lot because I think Larson has a rough go of it and does not finish on the lead lap. I think Stenhouse is a candidate to crash on literally every lap. So you're really just going Bubba against Christopher Bell, and you're getting plus 285 to do it. So I think that bet makes a lot of sense. Good luck with all your bets this week. Good luck with all your DraftKings lineups. Brian and I will be back next week to recap it all. I think we're going to record on Tuesday next week, so it'll be in your feed a day early. So get ahead of the market, and then obviously we'll be back for the weekend. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Enjoy the race, and we'll talk to you next time.